So for myself, I did not understand these dynamics. I did not understand that the way I make my resolution, the language with which I make it to be different, the limits of willpower autopilot. And years ago, I was approaching a New Year's Day, and I wanted to be successful at my resolution that year. And I had failed the 3 years before on my resolution, which was pretty much usually to lose weight and exercise more. So I decided, I don't want to fail again. My problem is I'm picking too hard of a resolution. I'm going to pick an easy resolution. To be organized, that's what I picked. And I went out and I got desk organizers and I fixed up my desk. I made a color-coded filing system and I cleared off my desk. And then I stood back and surveyed my work, and I high-fived myself for being very successful in my resolution. And within about 6 weeks, my desk looked the way it had looked before I did these things. I have to tell you that organizer stores do their best business in January, and so do gym memberships, and books like mine that tell you how to self-improve. January, everybody goes out, and by March, it is over. But on this particular year, when I failed at being organized, I have to say I was mortified. I just simply couldn't understand how I had failed at what I thought would be the easy resolution. And so I refused to concede defeat. I sort of took a step back and said, okay, well, if I can't be organized, what is one thing I can do to be more organized? And I had a lot of choices to look at. I looked at the ways in which I was disorganized. And thinking about one thing that caused me an organization issue was when I took notes, I just took them on whatever was handy or available. If I were in a meeting, I'd write on the presentation or the agenda. If I was at my desk, I'd write on a little pad. If I were at home, I might write on the back of an envelope. And I spent a lot of time trying to find notes. So I made a very modest resolution. I decided to keep all my notes in one notebook. That was my resolution. And I thought that was going to be a snap. I went out and I got a red notebook and I began taking my notes. But I'd say the first thing I came to realize is it wasn't easy because it wasn't part of my autopilot. I wasn't used to doing it. I would be in a meeting with you and we're having a good conversation, and then I need to make a note and I'd have to fish around in my bag to get this notebook. Or I'd be on the phone and I'd be taking a message and I'd have a pad right there, and my resolution was to put it in my book. Did I really have to go find the book and put the note in? But my resolution was so limited and so reasonable that I could not succeed. I had to follow through because I would have had to have admitted to myself if I couldn't do this one thing to improve my organizational life that I was really just dreaming when I thought about self-improving. So I stuck with it. I forced myself to make those notes. I put everything in that book. If you gave me a recipe, it was in that book. Confirmation numbers for a trip were in the book. New phone numbers were in the book. Bullet points for my next presentation was in the book. My priority list at work was in the book. Everything was in that book. And after weeks of it feeling awkward and weird, after about 4 weeks, it went into that autopilot place. And I just began doing it, like brushing my teeth. Beyond that, I found that it had benefits I never would have expected. Things that I thought were throwaway notes turned out to be significant weeks on. And my stress level declined, because when I had to find something, I didn't have to flip through 100 things. And I realized, hey, I've become more organized. And I thought to myself, well, what if I took this model of being more organized and went back to that resolution I always failed at, to lose weight and exercise more? And I thought, well, if I take the same principles and I think about a very limited resolution, I can make what is one thing I can do that would advance this objective. And at that time, I worked in a firm where they had cookies in every conference room, at every meeting. I mean, these cookies were huge. I mean, they must have been 800 calories apiece. I mean, there was chocolate chip cookies and blondies and brownies. And I ate one in every meeting. And sometimes I ate two. And I can remember some occasions when I ate 3. And I decided, okay, I'm never eating one of those cookies again. Now, I didn't say, I'm never going to eat a cookie again, because that would fail. And I didn't say, I'm never going to eat in a conference room again, because that would fail. I just said I'm not going to do this one thing. And when those cookies were passed and they came by me, I passed on them, and I never ate that cookie again. So these were my first 2 micro resolutions. This began my year of behaving differently, not trying to be different, but behave differently. And I've made scores of these resolutions in every area of my life. I've increased my productivity at work. My health is better. My relationships are better. I have micro resolutions focused on being a better human being. And these resolutions were designed to advance myself and to learn through doing and reform my own autopilot so I could live a different kind of life. So that was the beginning for me. And over time, my friends and family and colleagues began practicing the system, and I began collecting their stories, and I developed a system around it. So the first question to ask yourself when you get ready to change, is what it is you want to change about yourself. Let's talk about one we brought up earlier, like being neat. Okay, that's really a very abstract goal, right? There's neat and then there's neat. Like if you're overrun with clutter, if you never hang up your clothes, or you don't make your bed, or you don't wash your dishes, or your desk is filled up, or your mail is piling up, you pick one thing to focus on, to focus that narrow set of willpower on it. And the definition of a micro-resolution is that it is a compact and powerful commitment designed to reform a precise behavioral activity and deliver benefits immediately. So that is how you begin to make your resolution. But I want to point something out even more important. Your attitudes and the way you think about things are part of autopilot too, and they can be a target of making a micro-resolution. So, for example, somebody who is neat may have the point of view that I'm more productive when I work at a neat desk. I'm more productive when I work at a neat desk. And a micro-resolution can be to send a message to yourself in a specific situation that works on your attitude and mindset, because that is all subject to repetition and practice, just as any other activity in your life. If you're kind of tempted to snack in the afternoon, you don't have to have a resolution to say you're never going to snack in the afternoon. You can say, I enjoy dinner so much more when I'm hungry for it. And when you send that message, it will act on you, and that works in every area of your life. So there are several rules for making these resolutions, and I'm going to go through a few of them and touch on the others. So the very first thing is when you resolve to make a change, resolve to do something easy. Don't make resolutions you can't keep. Don't make resolutions you can't keep. It has to be easy. If it's easy, it means it's limited and reasonable and achievable. So if you want to better your health and you decide you're going to walk to work, if you never walk to work, walking to work 5 days and pledging that isn't going to work for you. That's not limited, and that's not reasonable. And what will happen when you overreach like that is on the first day of your resolution, you'll probably do it. And the second day, there's going to be some issue, like the weather or the time, and you're going to say, well, today's not such a good day, but I'll walk tomorrow, I'll make it up on the weekend. And then on Wednesday, it's also something else, and you say, okay, but I'll walk 2 times tomorrow. This is how we bargain ourselves out of changing. We bargain ourselves out of it. We're constantly negotiating with ourselves instead of just having something so discrete and achievable that we know we can do it. And here's another neurological fact. Decision-making, as we said, is a very expensive activity. People do not break their diet in the morning. They break their diet at night after a long day of decision-making and willpower. People do not go to the mall and immediately open up their wallet and spend on a lot of things. That happens at the end when they get in line to pay, and there's other things around them. At least where I come from, they make sure that when you hit that aisle, you're going to be surrounded by things that you really never knew you wanted, but in that moment seem very attractive to you. So every time you set yourself up with one of these resolutions to bargain with yourself, you're drawing down your decision-making and active initiative and your willpower. So you want to make it absolute. It is going to be easy and reasonable to follow through. And it can never be too easy, okay? If you decide you're going to make your bed before you leave the house, you could decide you're going to make your bed on the weekend before you leave the house because there's less pressure. And you can start with that. And whatever change you make will create a new pattern in your mind that you can build on and follow through. It's amazing how profound a small change can be.